Today I will do a walkthrough on the Razorblack TryHackMe Raz. This box was very fun to complete and is a good entry box into 80 boxes. So to start us off, once our machine has been booted and we have an IP, we can start our nmap enumeration. We'll just make a directory for our enumerations. Just specify tag P to make recursively. And we can start our nmap scan. We'll run sudo nmap, tag sv for enumerate versions, tag sc run default scripts, tag oa output all formats into enumeration nmap, and we'll just name it server scan and specify our IP. It might take some time to run. We can see our nmap scans have returned. Already we have a lot of more information on this host. See, if we scroll up, we can see that DNS is open on port 53. Also there's Kerberoasting, RPC bind on port 111, as well as SMB, LDAP, and RDP is open. From the RDP connection, or from the RDP scans, we can see we have a target name, Razorblack, the computer name, haven-dc, as well as the domain name, which is razorblack.thm. So to be able to start getting a foothold on this machine, we'll first look into this RPC bind. To be able to see what mounts, RPC mounts are available, we'll just run show mount, tag E, followed by the IP of this machine. And we can see there's the user's RPC mount that's available. To be able to mount this, we'll just make a directory, our current directory, and call it mount, as well as just making a users folder in that mount directory. And then to be able to mount this, we'll just run sudo mount tag T nfs tag O equals 3 followed by the IP, the mount we want to mount, as well as the location we want to mount it to. And then file type nfs. We can see we've successfully mounted that directory into that RPC mount to our system. But we can see we don't have permissions to actually go into that folder. Going to the mount folder, we'll just run ls-al to see all information. We can see the user ID specified for this folder is 429.4967294. To be able to bypass this, we'll just create a user on our account, on our system. We'll just call it black. And then you can specify any password you want. And the rest you just leave blank. So now we have a user called black on our system. Now we want to actually edit our etc passwords file to match the UID of that folder to our new user. Just ls tag al on mount users to get the UID again. Inside mount, we can take this UID, just replace our black user UID with the UID specified for that folder and save it. So now you should be able to see if we change our user to the black user, enter our password, we should now be able to cd into that users folder as well as list directories. So now you can see we have an employee status.xml file and an sbradley.txt file. Adding that sbradley.txt, we can see we have our first flag. So now the other restriction comes in. We are not able to actually copy out this employee status to other directories. You can also go into the file explorer as we are logged in as a normal Kali user, we won't be able to open that folder inside LibreOffice as well. But to overcome this, we'll just copy this. We'll set up a listener to listen on port 5001. We'll just tee all output into a new file and call it employee status .xml. XLS. And then what we can do is just cat the entire folder and pipe that into netcat and localhost port 9001. As you can see on our left side, we've received the connection. Just Control-C to get our terminal back, just to make sure that everything is copied correctly. Just to a hash checksum on the two files. And you can see we have the exact copy of that file owned by us. Now inside our folder file explorer, we can actually open this file and see we have now a list of usernames. So now that we have a valid list of names, we can try and see if we can get a valid username on that box. Going back to our RPC mount for the users, you can see we had a file called sbradley. And looking inside our Excel, we can see we have a Stephen Bradley. That might have given us a hint of what the username format is going to be, with the first letter of the name followed by his surname. We'll just make a new Sublime file, place our list in, and then just make a username file for us. And we'll save that as usernames. So now to be able to get a valid username, we can run an impacket script called impacket get MP users. This will actually look if pre-authentication is enabled on the user account as well, and potentially give us a hash of that user as well if pre-authentication is not enabled. You can see the format of running get MP users. Just run the command, followed by the domain name, no pass, and then users file. Looking back at our nmap scans, and just get the domain name again, which was Razorblack.thm, and then we'll just run impacket -get MP users, followed by the domain / tag user file, usernames, and then tag BCIP to specify the IP address we want to point this attack to. And it is users file. And we can see we are starting into the results. You can also see the usernames that does not exist. We can see client not found in Kerberos, as well as valid usernames will say don't require pre-auth. You can also see T. Williams doesn't have pre-authentication enabled, and we were able to retrieve his hash. We'll just copy that hash into a file called T. Williams hash and paste that in. Then we can try and brute force this hash by running John wordless equals users share wordless rockyou, and then we'll just specify the file containing the hash. As you can see, we were able to brute force that hash, and we got T. Williams password, roast potatoes. So to confirm this password, we can run crapnap exec smb as well as the IP of the DC. We can specify the username T Williams, contact P, password roast potatoes. And we can see we have a valid username, but we're not able to log in. If we were able to log in, you would have seen a pwned statement at the end there. You can also see if we're able to log into WinRM using this user. And you can see we're not able to log in via WinRM with this user. So now that we have this user and password, we have to try and see if we can find another user as well. So to enumerate DC further, we can do RPC client. With the user we've just received, T Williams. Followed by the IP. And then we'll just enter the T Williams password. And inside RPC client, we can see we can run a command, run enum dom users. And this should give us a list of all valid users on this domain controller. We'll just copy that out and paste that into a file called valid users for us to use later. I'm still a user black in this terminal, so I'll just exit. And then nano valid user again. So now that we have a list of valid users, we can use this later as well. What we can also do is try and use a password spray to see if there's any users using the same password. Maybe this roast potato is the default company password for new accounts. So to be able to do this, we'll just make a new file for us. We'll just need to trim extra parts to be able to do this. Do some awk and just set let's do this in Sublime. Valid users, and you can just do Control A, Control Shift L to get a line on every line. Hit home, and then you can start just erasing the beginning trail, hitting escape. And we can do Control H, backslash block bracket, followed by everything trailing it, and replace that with nothing. So now we have a file with just our valid usernames. We can now use this file with crapnap exec over SMB. And for the user, we'll now specify the file, and for the password, we'll specify roast potatoes. And you can see for S. Bradley, we have a valid password, but the password must change. So this is normally when a new account is created with the default password, and then once logged on, user would have to change the password. This now means we can actually change this S. Bradley user's password. We'll just run SMB password. Tag R for remote host. Tag capital U for the user we're going to specify. And then we'll need to specify the domain as well as the user. And then the old password was roast potatoes. And we'll change that to anything we want. And for some reason we got a timeout. Let's just try this again. The reason we're getting timeouts is our box has expired on TryHackMe, so just had to spawn up a new instance and then change the IP address. So to retry this attack, we'll just run SMB password again. Attack R for remote host. Attack capital U for the username. And we'll just specify the domain / the username. And then we'll just type in the old password and then specify our new password. We're getting password, logon failure. Just run attack help. And you can see the username you have to specify with a /. Just changing to /, typing in the old password, and then specifying the new password you want to change to. And you can see we've successfully changed the user Bradley's password. To confirm this, we'll just run crap map exec again, SMB module, our IP address, tag U for the username, Bradley, tag P, our new password we've set it to. As you can see, we can successfully authenticate with Bradley against this DC. Also check if we have WinRM access to the box. And Bradley still doesn't have WinRM access onto this DC. What we can do now next is check what SMB shares is available for Bradley. And just tag L to list the shares, followed by IP, and the password we have set. And you can see there is a trash SMB share available. So we'll just mount that share. I'm just typing the password we changed it to. We can see we now have additional folder files. So to be able to download this file, I'm just going to exit out of SMB client again, and just make a directory called SMB. And cd into that directory and then just connect again. Just retyping my password. Now what we can do is turn prompt off, turn recursive on, and we can just get star to download everything without prompting us. And it's done downloaded. You can just exit SMB client. And then we can see we have 3 additional files. Viewing the chat log, you can see this is just a chat log between Bradley and administrator discussing the zero logon exploit. Also carrying the sbradley.txt. It's the same flag we've previously got from the RPC binds. And then if we try and unzip this experiment, gone wrong.zip, we can see it is password protected. But to be able to brute force this zip file, we'll just use a tool called fcrackzip. We'll just specify tag Q, capital D, tag P for the password file. Just specify user, share, wordless, rockq, followed by our zip file we want to brute force. And we can see instantly we have the password for the zip file. Now just go ahead and unzip this file. And you can see we are presented with two additional files, the NTDS file and the system.hive file. So with these two files, we can actually run in-packet secret dumps to be able to extract the NTDS database. So we'll just run np in-packet-secret dump, like NTDS on our NTDS file, followed by back system, our system file, and then we'll just specify to run this locally. And we can see secret dump is decrypting our NTDS database. So just going back to the chat between sbradley and administrator, we can see that sbradley was playing around with zero logon. He was able to extract the NTDS.dit and system.hive file and transfer that onto his box. He also loves running secret dump on those files to dump the hashes. So that is where these two files came from. Just checking the results, we can see we have a different username syntax as well, so I can assume this might be an older database. So seeing as this is a large file, I'll just rerun this and tee it actually into a file we can use. I'll call that secretdump.txt. Just cutting our secret dump file to make sure we have the output. We can now try and look to see if there's anything useful inside this file. It could be possible that one of these hashes is actually a valid hash or a valid user, as they might have still been using the same password as when this dump occurred. But to be able to do this, we would actually want to only get the ln part of this hash and then scrap the rest. The easiest way I found to do this was with a tool called awk. We'll just specify that capital F to specify the delimiter, and we'll make that the semicolon, the colon actually, and I'll just specify to print the third instance, I think, and then just the file. It looks like it might have been the fourth instance. You can see we have a list of our LM hashes here, and we can just do sort like you, filter out all duplicates, and then read that into the hashes file. And just removing that the beginning trail as well as the end trail. So all this awk was doing is making a delimiter on the colon and then awking the 4th position. That would be 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that we have a hashes file, we can also use crapmap exact. And going back to the valid users we had, we can see there is a L Petrova user. We'll just do a password of a brute force against that user. And specifying tag capital H to specify hash in crapmap exact, followed by our hashes file. And we need to specify our IP address. So we'll just wait for this to continue to finish running. So results has returned and we can see we got a successful hit. Also check now, just to confirm that this hash is working. Just run again and crapmap exact. As well as checking for WinRM writes. We can see our user has WinRM writes to this box. Now we are able to just run WinRM, evil-winrm, tag I to specify the IP, tag user to specify, tag uv to specify the username, and then tag H to specify our hash we have. And you can see we have user on the box. Now that we have user on the box, we can start looking for the user flag. Just ls what is inside documents, we can see there's nothing there. Going back a directory, as here we can see we have a user.xml file. We cat this file. You can see inside the file we have some page credentials here, the username, the password. So this looks to be a PowerShell object. So to be able to decrypt this object or see what's inside, you can just Google for PowerShell, import CLI XML, and then extract. So this import CLI XML is the tool or scriptlet we're going to use to extract this object. So just reading through the article how to extract it. You can see with their object, they'll just assign a variable and say import CLI XML and path their XML file and then paste this in. So what we can do, we'll set our variable flag equals to import-CLI XML and then specify the path. You can see it accepted that, and then we'll just paste ending part, $flag, .get network credentials.password. And we can see we're presented with our second flag. So now that we have the user flag, we're going to move on to privileged escalation. So one of the first attacks we can do when compromising the main joint computer is running a Kerberoast attack. To be able to do this, we'll use a tool called Rubius. And we'll just download the binary from the GitHub repository. And just scrolling down their documentations, we can see how the Kerberoasting attack is going to work. Will just be us running the Rubius binary followed by Kerberoast. We'll just move our downloaded binary and zip the zip file, and then going into Rubius. This is the actual source code. To find the actual binary, we can just go to Ghostback binaries, and then you should find the getup of the compiled Ghostback binaries. We'll just git clone that one. And then seed into our Ghostback compiled binaries, and we should see a Rubius binary. And then inside evil-winrm, you can just upload Ghostback binaries and then the Rubius. Just waiting for the upload to complete. So once downloaded, we can just run that Rubius binary followed by Kerberoast. As you can see, command let not recognized. There are files still there? No, it's not there. It does seem like the AV has removed our Rubius binary, so we'll have to look. So seeing as Defender is cleaning our binary, let's try something else. We'll start up MSF console and we'll search for web delivery. Use run options. We'll set up allows to on 0. We'll keep our all port on 4444, and then our service port will just change to 8082. And then also we need to set our target to 2 so that our target would be PowerShell. And then set our payload to be a Windows interpreter. Then we can run that. See, we already have our listeners. We'll just kill that up and then rerun that. Once we have our web delivery set up, just execute this the PowerShell command and execute this inside our evil-winrm session. This might take a while, but we should get an interpreter session back. You can see it's sending the stager. We got an interpreter session on session 2. Interacting with that session, we can just run get UID. You can see it failed somewhere. Executing this, just rerunning our PowerShell payload. See, we now have a session 3 opened. Just give it a moment to run. And then interacting with that session 3, we can just run getUID. We can see we are our user. Just backgrounding the task, we can now search for execute assembly. You can see there is a post Windows module, so we'll just say use 2. Just running options, we can set our .NET binary to our Razorblack Rubius binary. We'll set the argument to Kerberoast. We'll set the session to session 3. And then we can run this. You can see we've successfully executed Rubius within memory, but we still didn't get the hash value. Seeing as the Rubius wasn't able to retrieve the hash, we'll use a different tool called inpacket user SPN. We'll just specify the domain Razorblack .thm followed by the user account we have, and just specify the hashes. We'll just paste in this twice to accommodate for the ln part of the hash. And we'll specify the DC IP of our host as well as the output file. We'll name this Kirby hashes. And we can see again we got the user, and if we cat our output file, we can see we have the user's hash. Try running this in John to crack the password. We'll just run John --wordless equals user share wordless rocku followed by our hash file. We can see John been able to crack our hash and retrieve the user password. Now I should be able to just WinRM in as that user. And we have successfully escalated to Xion. Running who am I /profs. We can see we have the SC backup privilege enabled. This actually allows us to do privilege escalation with this rights. Just googling SC backup privilege escalation. And just go to the hacking articles. We can see we're able to copy the SAM registry and the system registry as we have the backup rights. So all this would do is cd into the C directory, make a temp directory, and then save the SAM registry and the system registry inside that temp directory. We cd into temp. You can see our two files are there. And with evil-winrm, we can just download these two files to our system. Also just going back, before we do that, just going back to the users. Just to retrieve Xavier's flag as well. You can see we also have a PowerShell object for this user. So to decompress this, we do the same method as before. Specifying flag equals import CLI XML and then the path. And just googling again what that last command was. Get network credentials. And we can see we have our second user flag. Just jumping back to the files we've downloaded. And see that our evil-winrm wasn't able to download the files. I don't know if it's an error in my winrm, but I seem to be unable to download files. What we can do is just run our interpreter payload again. You get an interpreter shell again. You can see it's sending the stager. And we have a session call. Interacting with the session. Just run get UID and we can see we are Xion. We can now just cd back into that temp directory. And from interpreter download the two files. Confirming the files are there, we can see we have the two files on our system. Then back to the hacking articles. We'll see we're going to need PyPyCatch, and to install PyPyCatch you'll just put pre-install PyPyCatch. Already have it installed on my system. Now to be able to extract these hashes, we'll just run PyPyCatch registry tac-tac-sam, followed by our SAM file and our system file. And you can see we successfully got the administrator hash. To confirm this, we can evil-winrm into our system again. Specifying the user administrator, followed by the hash. And we can see the IP I've copied was wrong. We'll just fix that. And we can see we successfully have administrator access on this domain controller. Get the administrator flag. We can see there's a root.xml. Adding this, we can see it does look a bit different. There's our previous examples. Just going back to our Laveratora user. You can see the output does look somewhat different. Just taking this password section, you can drop this into CyberChef. And then from hex, we can see this was a hex. And our final root flag is here. So this would be it for the Razorblack TryHackMe Raz0rblack. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.